The alarm shouldn't have gone off. That was Commander Thylex's first thought when the priority signal woke him from his sleep cycle. Border Station Velcros was the most advanced monitoring facility in Sector 47 Gamma, positioned at the edge of Crithian Imperial space. Nothing entered this sector without being detected, identified, and catalogued. The system had worked flawlessly for 3 centuries. Thylex pulled himself from his rest chamber and moved quickly to the command deck. His second officer, Lieutenant Vorn, stood at the central console with his crest flattened against his skull. That was never a good sign. Among the Crithian people, a flattened crest meant confusion or fear. "Report," Thylex said, his voice still rough from sleep. "Commander, we have an anomaly. Sensor contact appeared at Mark 739, remained for approximately 40 seconds, then disappeared completely." Vorn's fingers danced across the holographic display, bringing up the sensor data. No jump signature. No residual energy. It simply vanished. Thylex studied the readings. His people had been exploring space for over 10,000 years. They had encountered dozens of intelligent species, mapped millions of star systems, and developed sensor technology that could detect a single ship from 3 light-years away. Objects did not simply appear and disappear. "Sensor malfunction?" he asked. "That was my first assumption, Commander, but the redundant systems all registered the same contact. And there's more." Vorn pulled up a secondary display. It appeared again here. 20 minutes later, 17 parsecs away. That was impossible. Even the fastest ships in the known galaxy required at least 2 hours to cover that distance, including time to charge their jump drives. Thylex felt his own crest begin to flatten. "Show me the signature." The sensor profile appeared on the screen. It was unlike anything in their database. The energy output was minimal, barely above background radiation. The mass reading fluctuated wildly, as if the object couldn't decide how large it was, and the profile itself was wrong. It didn't match any known ship configuration, natural phenomenon, or weapon system. Could it be the Sethians? Thylex asked, referring to their Cold War rivals on the other side of the galaxy. Some new stealth technology? Possible, but unlikely. The Sethian Collective's technology tree is well documented. This is beyond their capabilities. Beyond anyone's capabilities, if I'm reading this correctly. Thylex made a decision. Send a coded message to Imperial Command. Priority 3. Inform them we have an unidentified contact that defies standard physics. Request guidance, he paused. And prepare my squadron. If this appears again, I want to be ready to intercept. Yes, Commander. The waiting was the hardest part. Thylex had served in the Imperial fleet for 40 years. He had fought pirates, negotiated with hostile species, and explored uncharted systems. But he had never encountered something that made him feel like a primitive staring at the sky, unable to understand what he was seeing. 3 hours later, the contact appeared again. This time it was closer. Much closer! Contact! Bearing 270, distance 4 light minutes. The sensor officer's voice cracked with tension. It's just sitting there, Commander. Not moving, not broadcasting. Just sitting. Launch the squadron. Standard intercept formation. I want a visual on this thing. Thylex strapped himself into his command chair as the station's docking bay erupted with activity. 6 patrol ships, small and fast, detached from the station and formed up in a delta pattern. Thylex took personal command of the lead ship. It was against protocol for a station commander to leave his post, but something told him this required his direct attention. Besides, the squadron was designed for situations exactly like this. Probably. Hopefully. They accelerated toward the contact point, their drives pushing them to 0.7 light speed. At this velocity, they would reach the anomaly in approximately 30 minutes. Thylex kept his eyes fixed on the sensor display, watching the contact marker hold steady. It's not running, Vorn observed from the co-pilot seat. If it detected our approach, it's not reacting. Maybe it can't, Thylex suggested. Maybe it's disabled. A derelict from some unknown civilization. But even as he said it, he didn't believe it. The way this thing moved, appearing and disappearing across vast distances, spoke of technology far beyond derelict capabilities. 20 minutes into their approach, the contact moved. Not away from them, but perpendicular to their trajectory. It slipped sideways through space with impossible grace, threading between 2 asteroid fields at a speed that should have torn any ship apart from the gravitational stress. Pursue, Thylex ordered. Match its course. The chase began. For the next 2 hours, the squadron played a frustrating game of cat and mouse with the ghost ship. Every time they adjusted their course to intercept, the contact would shift direction with reaction time that suggested it knew their intentions before they executed their maneuvers. It led them through a debris field, around a gas giant's rings, and into the heart of a sensor-dampening nebula. "Commander, this is deliberate," Vorn said. "It's testing us, measuring our capabilities, or toying with us," Thylix muttered. He opened a channel to all ships. "Spread formation. I want a sensor net wide enough that it can't slip through. When I give the signal, converge on my mark." The squadron split apart, each ship taking a position to form a three-dimensional net of overlapping sensor fields. The ghost ship was somewhere in the nebula ahead. The question was where? "Contact! Dead ahead 5,000 kilometers. The sensor officer's triumphant shout filled the cabin. "We have it boxed in, Commander." All ships converge. "Maximum magnification on visual scanners. I want to see what we're dealing with." The patrol ships closed in from all sides. The nebula's colorful gases swirled around them, charged particles creating auroras of purple and gold across their view screens. And there, at the center of their formation, hung the ghost ship. Thalix's breath caught in his throat. The vessel was like nothing he had ever seen. It was angular where most ships were curved, dark where they were reflective. Its surface seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it difficult to focus on. The design was elegant in its efficiency, with no wasted space, no decorative elements. This was a machine built by beings who understood the cold mathematics of space. "Hailing on all frequencies," Vorn reported. No response. "Try again." "Inform them they are in Crithian space without authorization. They are to identify themselves immediately, or be considered hostile." Vorn repeated the message in a dozen languages, using every communication protocol known to galactic civilization. The ghost ship remained silent. "Prepare weapons," Thylix ordered reluctantly. "Warning shots only. I want to disable their engines if they run, not destroy them." The squadron's targeting systems locked onto the mysterious vessel. Weapon ports opened on all 6 ships. Thylix raised his hand, ready to give the order to fire a spread of warning shots across the ghost ship's bow. Then the ship disappeared. Not with a flash or a burst of energy. It simply ceased to exist on every sensor, every visual scanner, every detection system they possessed. One moment it was there, solid and real. The next moment, empty space, a scan for jump signatures, gravitational distortions. "Anything!" Thylix shouted. "Nothing, Commander. No evidence it was ever here. No residual energy, no waste heat, no distortion in the fabric of space-time. It's just gone." Thylix stared at the empty space where the ghost ship had been. His crest was completely flat now, pressed so tightly against his skull it ached. In 40 years of service, he had never felt true fear in space. Space was knowable, predictable, governed by laws that could be understood and exploited. But this ship, this ghost, it operated by different rules entirely. "Return to base," he said quietly, "and send everything we recorded to Imperial Command. Mark it highest priority. Tell them we have a situation that requires immediate attention from the Admiralty." As his squadron turned for home, Thylix kept his eyes on the sensor display, half expecting the ghost to reappear. But it didn't. It had shown itself, allowed them to see it, and then vanished like morning mist under a rising sun. Somewhere out there in the vast darkness, something was watching them. Something with technology beyond their understanding. Something that could move like a ghost through the most secure space in the Empire. And Thylix had no idea what it wanted. High Admiral Zorath stood before the holographic display in the Imperial Command Center, studying the data from Commander Thylix's encounter. Around him, the massive chamber hummed with activity. Dozens of officers worked at stations that monitored every corner of Crithian space. The Empire stretched across 40 star systems, encompassing 3 habitable worlds and countless stations and colonies. For 3,000 cycles, they had been the dominant military power in this region of the galaxy. And now something had penetrated their borders as if those borders meant nothing at all. "Play the visual recording again," Zorath commanded. The hologram shifted, displaying the grainy footage of the ghost ship. Even with image enhancement, the vessel remained difficult to see clearly. Its surface seemed to drink in light, creating a hole in space rather than an object within it. "Analysis?" Zorath asked. His chief intelligence officer, a thin Crithian female named Sela, stepped forward. The design shares no similarities with any known spacefaring species. We've run it through databases from the Scythian Collective, the Torvan Commonwealth, even the ancient predecessor ruins. Nothing matches. So we're dealing with a completely unknown civilization. Zorath's crest rippled with concern. How is that possible? We've explored this entire region. Our survey ships have mapped every system within 500 light-years. Not every system, Admiral. There are still the dead zones. Sella pulled up a star chart, highlighting several regions in red. Areas with too much radiation, unstable stars, or spatial anomalies that make exploration dangerous. We've classified them as uninhabitable and largely ignored them. You're suggesting this ship comes from a species that evolved in a dead zone? It would explain why we've never encountered them. And it would also explain their technology level. Any species that could survive in such an environment would need to be exceptionally advanced. Or exceptionally desperate. Zorath considered this. It was possible, though unlikely. Most species that evolved in hostile environments never made it past the primitive stage. They were crushed by their own planet's hostility before they could reach for the stars. What about their intentions? Why reveal themselves now? Unknown. The ship made no hostile moves. It fled rather than fought. But its capabilities are deeply concerning. Sella changed the display to show a tactical analysis. It evaded 6 patrol ships with ease. Its sensors detected their approach long before they detected it. And its method of disappearance suggests either a form of cloaking technology we cannot penetrate, or a type of faster-than-light travel we don't understand. The doors to the command center slid open. Fleet Admiral Corvin, the Empire's highest military authority, strode in with his security detail. Zorath and Sela immediately stood at attention. At ease, Corvin said, his voice rough with age. He had commanded fleets for 60 years and his crest was streaked with gray. I've read Commander Thalix's report. Tell me this isn't as bad as it sounds. I wish I could, sir, Zorath replied. We're dealing with an unknown vessel using unknown technology in our space. The Sethians? We don't believe so. This is beyond their technological capabilities. Beyond anyone's, as far as we can determine. Corvin moved to the holographic display, studying the ghost ship with narrowed eyes. Then we need to find out who built it and what they want. Put the border fleets on elevated alert. Increase patrol frequencies, and if this ship appears again, I want overwhelming force ready to respond. Not 6 patrol ships, a full battle group. Sir, if they're not hostile, then they'll have nothing to fear from showing themselves properly. Send the orders. The orders went out within the hour. Across the Empire's borders, ships powered up their drives and weapon systems. Sensor networks increased their sensitivity. Early warning stations went to full staffing. The Crithian Empire prepared for a potential threat as it hadn't done in decades. 3 days passed with no further sightings. Zorath began to wonder if the ghost ship had moved on, its curiosity about the Empire satisfied. Then the reports started coming in. The first was from a mining colony in Sector 52. Workers reported strange sensor readings, followed by a visual sighting of an unknown ship, conducting what appeared to be scanning operations. By the time the local security ship arrived, the ghost was gone. The second was from a cargo convoy near Sector. Freight. The convoy's escort reported a contact matching the ghost ship's profile following them for approximately 1 hour before disappearing. The third report came from Border Station Helion, and it changed everything. The ghost ship had appeared near the station and this time it had stayed. Not for minutes, but for hours. It conducted detailed scans of the station and the surrounding area, ignoring all hails and warnings. The station commander, a young officer named Captain Vrex, made a decision. He dispatched his fastest destroyer with orders to intercept and disable the ghost ship's engines. It was time to end this game. Zorath watched the live feed from the destroyer's bridge. He had advised against aggressive action, preferring to continue monitoring and gathering intelligence. But he had been overruled by Fleet Admiral Corvin, who insisted that allowing an unknown ship to operate freely in Imperial space sent a message of weakness. The destroyer, a sleek vessel named the Talon, approached the ghost ship at battle speed. Its weapon systems were charged and ready. Its shields were at maximum strength. On paper, the Talon could disable a ship twice its size. This ghost ship, according to scans, was barely larger than a civilian transport. Ghost ship, this is Imperial Destroyer Talon. You are in violation of Crithian space and have ignored multiple warnings. Shut down your drives and prepare to be boarded. This is your final warning. For a moment there was no response. Then a message came through, transmitted on standard frequencies in perfect Krithian language. The voice that spoke was strange, flatter than any Krithian voice, but unmistakably intelligent. We mean no harm. We are passing through. Do not engage. Zorath leaned forward in his chair. The ghost ship could speak. It understood their language. This changed everything. They could negotiate, establish communication, avoid conflict. But Captain Vrex aboard the Talon interpreted the message differently. The ghost ship had ignored dozens of warnings. It had violated Imperial space, and now it dared to issue orders to an Imperial destroyer. Target their engines, fire. The Talon's main weapons discharged, sending bolts of concentrated energy toward the ghost ship. Zorath watched, expecting to see the ship's shields flare as they absorbed the impact. Instead, the ghost ship moved. It shifted position with impossible speed, not accelerating gradually like normal ships, but simply being in a different location. The weapons fire passed harmlessly through empty space. Retarget. Fire again! More weapons fire. More misses. The ghost ship seemed to know where each shot would go before the Talon's targeting computer had finished calculating the firing solution. It moved with the grace of a dancer, always exactly where the weapons were not. Then it stopped dodging and began to respond. Small ports opened along its dark hull. Beams of coherent light lanced out, striking the Talon with surgical precision. But these weren't weapons designed to destroy. The first beam struck the Talon's primary weapons array, fusing the firing mechanisms. The second hit the engine control systems, shutting down the main drives. The third struck the communications relay, cutting the destroyer off from the fleet network. In less than 30 seconds, the Talon was disabled. Not destroyed, not damaged beyond repair, simply rendered unable to fight or flee. The ghost ship had targeted every critical system with perfect accuracy, causing no casualties, no hull breaches, no loss of life support. Then it transmitted another message. This time the voice carried something that might have been emotion. Disappointment, regret. We warned you. We do not wish conflict, but we will defend ourselves. A new contact appeared on the sensors. Then another, and another. 5 more ghost ships materialized around the Talon, forming a defensive perimeter. Where had they come from? Had they been watching the entire time, cloaked and invisible? The lead ghost ship transmitted one final message. Tell your leaders we request formal diplomatic contact. We are from a world called Earth. We are explorers, not invaders. But we are not helpless. Next time, please talk to us instead of shooting. Then all 6 ghost ships vanished simultaneously. The Talon drifted in space, its crew alive but shaken. Recovery ships were dispatched immediately. In the command center, Zorath stared at the empty tactical display where the ghost ships had been. Around him, officers worked in stunned silence. The Krithian Empire, master of this region of space for 3 millennia, had just been humiliated by ships they couldn't track or fight. Fleet Admiral Corvin's face appeared on the hologram, transmitted from his flagship. Assemble the council. Emergency session. We need to discuss this, Earth. Zorath nodded slowly. The situation had just become far more complicated. These weren't just unknown ships. They were representatives of an unknown civilization, one that possessed technology beyond Imperial capabilities, one that had been watching them, learning their language, operating in their space without detection, one that claimed to come from a world called Earth. Zorath had never heard of it, but he had a feeling that name would soon be known throughout the galaxy. High Admiral Zorath stood on the bridge of the Imperial flagship Dominant Will, watching the fleet assemble around him. 20 capital ships, each one capable of destroying a small moon. 40 support vessels bristling with weapons and sensors. 200 fighter craft ready to launch at a moment's notice. It was the largest concentration of military power the Krithian Empire had, deployed in peacetime in over 50 years, to capture one small exploration ship. Fleet Admiral Corvin had demanded overwhelming force. The Council had authorized whatever resources were necessary. The Empire's pride had been wounded, and now they would demonstrate that Krithian space belonged to the Krithians, not to these mysterious humans and their ghost ships. The quantum tracker had done its job. After the incident with the Talon, Imperial scientists had managed to tag the lead ghost ship with a quantum marker. Invisible to normal sensors, impossible to remove without advanced physics knowledge, the marker created a connection through subspace that allowed them to follow the ship's movements. For 2 days, they tracked the ghost ship, the UNSS Wanderer, if their intelligence was correct, as it moved through the outer systems. It seemed to be conducting scientific surveys, taking measurements of stellar phenomena, cataloging asteroid compositions, peaceful activities, innocent activities. But Zorath had his orders. Capture the ship, board it, discover its secrets. The Wanderer had stopped in an uninhabited system on the very edge of charted space. According to long-range scans, it was simply floating near a binary star system, apparently studying the interaction between the two stars. "Admiral, all ships report ready," his second-in-command reported. "Formation is set. Sphere deployment as ordered. The target cannot escape," Zorath nodded. The sphere formation was a classic military maneuver, surrounding an enemy vessel on all sides with overlapping fields of fire. No ship, no matter how advanced, could break through 20 capital ships positioned in a perfect three-dimensional cage. "Take us in. Maximum sensor dampening until we're in position. I want to be on top of them before they know we're here." The fleet moved forward, engines running in stealth mode. It took 3 hours to position all ships in the sphere formation, 3 hours of careful maneuvering and precise navigation. But finally they were ready. The Wanderer sat at the center of their formation, apparently oblivious to the massive fleet surrounding it. Zorath opened a channel to all ships. "This is High Admiral Zorath to all vessels. Weapons hot. Shields maximum. If the target attempts to flee, disable only. We want that ship intact. Understood?" A chorus of confirmations came back. Zorath took a deep breath, then opened a channel to the Wanderer. "Unidentified vessel, this is High Admiral Zorath of the Crithian Imperial Fleet. You are completely surrounded. Your escape is impossible. You are to shut down all systems and prepare to be boarded. You will not be harmed if you comply. Resist and we will disable your ship by force." For a long moment there was no response. Zorath waited, watching the tactical display. The Wanderer just sat there, its dark hull barely visible against the starfield. Then a response came. The voice was different from before. Female, if Zorath was judging the tones correctly, and there was something in that voice that made his crest flatten involuntarily. Not fear, not anger. Something worse, amusement. "High Admiral Zorath, you honor us with such a large fleet. 20 capital ships, 40 support vessels, 200 fighters. Your formation is impressive. Your tactics are sound. Your crews are well trained." There was a pause. "But you should not have followed us. We tried to warn you. We are not your enemy. We do not wish to fight. Please turn your fleet around and return home. We will contact your government through proper diplomatic channels. There is no need for this confrontation." Corvin's voice came through on the private command channel. "Arrogant words from a cornered prey, Admiral. Show them what happens when someone defies the Empire." Zorath hesitated. Something about the human's tone bothered him. She didn't sound frightened. She didn't sound like someone facing impossible odds. She sounded sad, disappointed, but his orders were clear. "This is your final warning. Surrender now or we will take you by force, and we understand." "I'm sorry it has come to this." The channel went silent. "All ships, deploy boarding craft. Target the Wanderer's engine section. Disable their propulsion." Zorath gave the order he knew would change everything. What happened next would be analyzed by military historians for generations. It would be taught in tactical academies as an example of how technology could render traditional warfare obsolete. It would become a nightmare for every naval officer in the Empire. The Wanderer moved first. Not away from the fleet, but toward it. It accelerated to impossible speeds in less than a second, closing the distance to the nearest capital ship in a heartbeat. Point defense systems tried to track it, but the ship was already past, weaving between vessels with millimeters to spare. "Fire. All weapons fire!" Zorath shouted. The fleet opened up. Energy beams, missiles, kinetic rounds, everything the Empire's finest weapons designers had created. The space around the Wanderer became a storm of destructive force. Nothing hit. The ship moved through the weapons fire like water flowing around stones. It didn't just evade. It seemed to know where each shot would be before the targeting computers had finished calculating. Its movements were perfect, precise, impossible. Then it started shooting back. Small ports opened along the Wanderer's hull and beams of focused energy lanced out. But these weren't designed to destroy. The first beam hit the dominant will's primary weapons array. Targeting systems went dark. The second hit the shield generators on a battleship. The third disabled the engines on a cruiser. "They're not trying to kill us," Zorath's tactical officer said, his voice filled with shock. "They're just..." disabling us. Ship after ship fell silent as the Wanderer danced through the fleet. It moved in 3 dimensions simultaneously, up and down, side to side, forward and back. Its movements defied inertia, ignored momentum. One moment it would be behind them, the next it was ahead, then beside them. The fighters launched, 200 small craft swarming toward the single ship. Surely numbers would overcome technology. Surely mass could defeat maneuverability. The Wanderer's point defense systems activated. Small guns, almost too tiny to be visible on sensors, tracked and destroyed incoming missiles with perfect accuracy. Energy pulses, each one lasting less than a millisecond. Disabled fighter after fighter. Not destroyed, disabled. Engines knocked out. Weapons fused shut. Communication systems scrambled. But the pilots lived. Every single one lived. In 20 minutes it was over. 20 capital ships drifted helplessly in space. Their weapons offline, their shields down, their engines disabled. 40 support vessels in similar condition. 200 fighters floating dead in space. Their pilots alive, but their craft useless. And the Wanderer sat in the middle of them all. Undamaged, untouched, barely scratched. Zorath sat in his command chair, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. His entire fleet, the pride of the Empire, defeated by a single ship. Not destroyed, not even damaged, but defeated nonetheless. The communication channel opened again. That same female voice, but now it carried a note of genuine regret. "Admiral Zorath, are you receiving this transmission?" "I'm here," Zorath said quietly. "Your crews are all alive. We have not killed a single person. Your ships can be repaired, but I need you to understand something. We did not want this. You forced our hand. You came here with weapons ready, demands prepared, unwilling to listen, and now you have seen what we are capable of. Who are you?" Zorath asked. Not a challenge. A genuine question. We are humans. We are from a world called Earth, located in what you designate as Uninhabitable Zone 7743. We have been exploring space for 300 years. We have been watching your civilization for 5 years, learning your languages, studying your culture, respecting your boundaries. We could have revealed ourselves at any time. We chose to wait until we understood you better. Why? Because we needed to know if you were ready for us. If you could accept another spacefaring species as equals. If you would talk before shooting. There was a long pause. You failed that test, Admiral. You chose violence over dialogue, force over diplomacy, but you are not beyond redemption. You fought bravely, even if you fought needlessly. The Wanderer began to move, drifting slowly toward the edge of the system. We are sending detailed repair instructions to your engineering teams. All your ships can be restored to full functionality within 48 hours. We are also transmitting coordinates for a neutral location where diplomatic contact can be established. We hope your government will choose to meet us there. And if we refuse, Zorath asked, then we will respect your wishes and avoid Crithian space. But know this, Admiral, we are not the only human ship out here. We have colonies, outposts, and survey vessels throughout this region. We have been here longer than you know, and we will continue to explore, to learn, to grow. The question is whether we do so as neighbors or as strangers. The Wanderer accelerated away from the fleet, its dark hull fading into the starfield. This time Zorath didn't bother trying to track it. What would be the point? He sat in silence for a long time, surrounded by his disabled fleet. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened within hours of the news spreading. Representatives from 14 different civilizations gathered in the Grand Chamber on the neutral station of Concordia. The chamber had been built 5,000 years ago as a place where disputes could be settled with words instead of weapons. Today it served a different purpose. Today they gathered to discuss a threat none of them had anticipated. Ambassador Sella represented the Crithian Empire at the council. She stood at the central podium, her crest held high despite the shame that still burned in her hearts. Behind her, the holographic display showed the footage from High Admiral Zorath's fleet. 20 capital ships disabled in minutes, an entire battle group rendered helpless by a single unknown vessel. The other representatives watched in stunned silence. Some were longtime allies of the Empire. Others were rivals who normally would have taken pleasure in Crithian defeat. But today there was no pleasure in the chamber. "Only fear. This is what we face," Scylla said, her voice echoing through the vast space. "A species we have never encountered. Technology we cannot match, and capabilities that render our conventional military power obsolete." Ambassador Thren of the Sethian Collective rose from his seat. The Sethians were reptilian, their scales shifting through colors that reflected their emotions. Right now, Thren's scales showed deep blue, concern. You are certain this is not some Crithian deception? A new weapon you have developed and now pretend to fear? If we possessed such technology, Ambassador, we would not have lost an entire fleet to it, Sela replied coldly. Our military commanders are not that devoted to theater. Then who are these humans? Where did they come from? Sela gestured to her intelligence officer, who brought up a star chart. Several regions glowed red. Our analysis suggests they originated from this area. Uninhabitable Zone 7743. We classified it as too hostile for exploration decades ago. Impossible, Ambassador Vorix of the Torvan Commonwealth said. He was insectoid, his multiple eyes blinking in sequence. Our survey ships passed through that region 800 cycles ago. High radiation, unstable stellar formations, spatial anomalies that would tear apart most ships. No intelligent life could evolve there. And yet they did, Sela said. We pulled data from every probe and survey ship that ever passed near that region. Most failed before sending back meaningful data. But a few ancient probes launched by the predecessors themselves briefly scanned the area before malfunctioning. The display changed, showing grainy images and fragmentary data. A blue-green world with vast oceans and swirling white clouds. A yellow star of unusual stability in an otherwise chaotic region. Brief electromagnetic signals suggesting technological civilization. This is Earth? Vorix asked. We believe so. The data is thousands of years old, but it matches what little we know. A Class 3 world, slightly higher gravity than standard. Large moon creating severe tidal forces. Extreme weather patterns. Abundant predator species. Every environmental factor that would make the evolution of intelligence difficult. Yet they survived, Thren said quietly. More than survived. They thrived. An older representative stood. This was Elder Kren of the Vorn Dominion, a species that had been exploring space for longer than any other in the Council. His people were energy beings, barely corporeal, their forms held together by containment fields. I have seen this before, he said, his voice like wind through crystals. Not human specifically, but the pattern. A species emerges from hostile conditions. They are shaped by their environment, made strong by it. They develop technology not out of curiosity alone, but out of necessity. Every advancement is a matter of survival. What happened to the other species you observed? Sela asked. Some burned themselves out in wars. Some expanded too quickly and collapsed. A few found balance and became valuable members of the galactic community. Kren's form flickered, but all of them changed the galaxy in fundamental ways. Their perspective, shaped by struggle, brought innovations the rest of us had never considered. So what do we do? Ambassador Yella of the Meridian Union asked. She was mammalian, her fur streaked with gray. Do we try to contain them? Negotiate with them? Ignore them and hope they remain peaceful? We cannot contain them, Sela said flatly. Our best military forces were defeated without a single human casualty. If they wished to conquer, we would already be conquered. If they wished to destroy, we would already be destroyed. But they have not, Thren observed. They disabled your fleet but killed no one. They transmitted repair instructions. They offered diplomatic contact. These are not the actions of an aggressive species. Or they are the actions of a species confident in their superiority. Vorix countered. They can afford to be merciful because they know we cannot threaten them. Sela nodded. That is a possibility. But I believe Ambassador Thren is correct. The humans have had ample opportunity to attack. Instead, they studied us, learned our languages, watched our boundaries. They are cautious, not aggressive. Then we negotiate, Elder Kren said. We extend formal diplomatic contact. We learn about them as they have learned about us. We find common ground, and if they refuse? Yella asked. Why would they refuse? They are the ones who suggested diplomatic contact. They want to talk to us. The council debated for hours. Some representatives argued for military preparation, for developing countermeasures against human technology. Others advocated for diplomatic outreach, for building bridges instead of walls. A few suggested isolation, pretending the humans didn't exist and hoping they would move on. But everyone knew that last option was foolish. The humans were here. They were real, and ignoring them would not make them disappear. Finally, a consensus emerged. The council would send a formal invitation to the humans, requesting diplomatic contact. They would offer a neutral location terms of peaceful engagement and guarantees of safety. In return, they would ask for information about human civilization, their technology, and their intentions. It was a reasonable proposal. A sensible proposal. But even as the council voted to approve it, Sela felt a deep unease. They were treating this as a normal first contact situation, but nothing about humanity was normal. While the council debated, events were unfolding far from Concordia. On the far side of Crithian space, the Sethian collective was making their own plans. Secret plans. Plans that did not involve diplomatic niceties. Admiral Corson commanded the Sethian Special Operations Fleet. Unlike the bombastic displays of Crithian power, the Sethian approach was subtle. They used stealth ships, cloaking technology, and surprise attacks. While the Crithians built massive fleets to intimidate, the Sethians built invisible daggers to strike from shadows. Corson studied the intelligence reports about humanity with growing excitement. If his people could capture human technology, they would leap ahead of the Crithians in the eternal Cold War. They would become the dominant power in the region. All it would take was one ship. One human ship captured intact, its secrets laid bare. Send the strike fleet to these coordinates, Corson ordered, pointing to a region of space near where the Wanderer had last been spotted. Maximum stealth protocols. When you locate a human ship, disable it and tow it back to Sethian space. Use whatever force is necessary, but I want that ship intact. Admiral, the humans defeated an entire Crithian battle group. Our forces, the Crithians, are fools who announce their presence and demand surrender. We will not make their mistakes. We will strike silently, swiftly, before the humans know we are there. Once the ship is disabled, we will be gone before they can respond. The strike fleet departed within hours. 12 stealth cruisers, each one invisible to standard sensors, each one armed with weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. Each one crewed by the Sethian collective's finest warriors. They moved through space like shadows, their cloaking systems rendering them invisible to anything but the most sophisticated sensors. They reached the coordinates where human activity had been detected and spread out in a search pattern. It took 3 days to find their target. A human ship, smaller than the Wanderer but similar in design, was conducting surveys of a mineral-rich asteroid belt. It appeared to be alone, undefended, vulnerable. Corson watched through the live feed from his flagship. All ships assume attack positions. On my mark, we fire disruption pulses to disable their engines and weapons. Then we deploy towing cables and extract them to Sethian space. Understood? His officers confirmed readiness. Corson raised his hand, preparing to give the order that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. Then his sensor officer spoke, his voice trembling. Admiral, we have a problem. What problem? The human ship. It's transmitting. To us. Specifically to us. That's impossible. We're cloaked. They cannot detect. A message appeared on every screen in the Sethian fleet. Text in perfect Sethian script as if written by a native speaker. We know you are there. We have tracked your approach for the past 3 days. We know you are Sethian collective military vessels. We know you intend to capture this ship. We strongly advise against this action. Corson's blood ran cold. They had been tracking them for 3 days while they were cloaked. The neutral station designated for first contact had been hastily prepared. Located in unclaimed space between the territories of the major powers, the station had once served as a minor trading post. Now it had been transformed into a meeting place that would potentially reshape galactic civilization. High Admiral Zorath stood in the station's main docking bay, watching the approach monitors. Around him, representatives from 14 different civilizations waited with varying degrees of anxiety. The Galactic Council had agreed to present a unified front for first contact with humanity. No more unilateral military actions, no more attempted captures or confrontations. This time they would do things properly. Contact in 5 minutes, the station commander announced. Zorath's crest rippled nervously. He had been chosen to lead the greeting delegation, partly because of his direct experience with the humans, and partly because his defeat had given him a certain humility that the council felt was appropriate. He was a reminder that humanity could not be intimidated or conquered. What kind of ship do you think they will send? Ambassador Sela asked, standing beside him. She had been appointed as the primary diplomatic representative for the Empire. Something impressive, Zorath replied. If they want to establish themselves as equals, they will arrive in a vessel that demonstrates their capabilities. But if they truly want peace, they will not arrive with a warship. Can the humans be trusted? Sela asked quietly. They have had multiple opportunities to attack us and have chosen mercy every time. They disabled 2 military fleets without killing a single person. That speaks to either remarkable restraint or remarkable confidence. Perhaps both. The monitors showed a contact approaching, a single ship, larger than the Wanderer but not as large as a Crithian capital ship. Its design was elegant with smooth curves and that same light-absorbing hull that made it difficult to see clearly. As it drew closer, Zorath could see details he had missed in the previous encounters. The hull was covered in what appeared to be tiny sensors and communication arrays. This was a ship built for exploration and diplomacy, not war. The human ship, designated by its transponder as the UNSS Horizon, docked with smooth precision. The docking bay pressurized and the airlock cycled. Zorath and the other representatives moved to the designated greeting area, forming a semicircle of diverse species, all united by curiosity and carefully controlled fear. The airlock opened. The first human stepped through. Zorath had reviewed every scrap of data they had on human physiology. He had studied the brief visual recordings from previous encounters. But seeing a human in person was still startling. They were smaller than Crithians, standing perhaps 1.7 meters tall. Bipedal with bilateral symmetry. 2 forward-facing eyes set in a flat face. No crest, no scales, no fur of any great thickness. They looked almost fragile. But Zorath had learned not to judge by appearances. These fragile-looking beings commanded technology that made them anything but vulnerable. The human leading the delegation was female, wearing what appeared to be a formal uniform of dark blue with silver insignia. Her hair was dark and pulled back in a practical style. Her expression was calm, professional, but Zorath thought he detected a hint of nervousness in the way she moved. Good. If the humans were nervous, it meant they were taking this seriously. Greetings, the human said, speaking in perfect Crithian. I am Ambassador Dr. Sarah Chen, representing the United Nations of Earth and our colonial territories. On behalf of humanity, I thank you for agreeing to this meeting. Zorath stepped forward, keeping his movement slow and non-threatening. Welcome, Ambassador Chen. I am High Admiral Zorath of the Crithian Empire. This is Ambassador Sela, our chief diplomatic representative. We speak for not only our empire, but for this delegation of civilizations who wish to establish peaceful relations with your people. Dr. Chen's face transformed in a way that Zorath found fascinating. The corners of her mouth lifted, showing teeth briefly. He had read about this in the limited data they had on human expressions. A smile, a gesture of friendliness. We are honored. May I introduce my team? She gestured to the other humans emerging from the airlock. This is Commander James Mitchell, our military liaison, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, our chief xenobiologist, and Dr. Marcus Webb, our technology specialist. The introductions continued as the various species representatives presented themselves. Zorath watched the humans carefully. They showed no sign of fear or intimidation despite being surrounded by aliens, many of whom were larger and physically more imposing. They met each representative with that same friendly expression, that smile and what appeared to be genuine interest. Perhaps we should move to the conference chamber, Sela suggested. We have much to discuss. The conference chamber was a circular room designed to accommodate multiple species with different environmental needs. The humans took seats that had been hastily modified for their smaller size. Dr. Chen placed a small device on the table in front of her. Before we begin formal discussions, I believe some explanation is in order. You have questions about us, about where we come from, what we want, and how we possess the technology you have witnessed. That is entirely reasonable. She activated the device and a holographic display appeared above the table. It showed a solar system. 1 star, yellow and stable, several planets with the 3rd highlighted. Zorath leaned forward, studying the data. The planet showed conditions that made him wince internally. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, violent weather systems, a moon so large it caused massive tidal forces. This is Earth, Dr. Chen said. Our home world. As you can see, it is not a hospitable place by most standards. High gravity gave us dense bone structure and strong muscles. Extreme weather required us to be adaptable and inventive. Abundant predators made us develop cooperation and tool use at an early stage of our evolution. We are a young species by galactic standards. We achieved spaceflight only 300 years ago. 300 years? Elder Kren said, his voice filled with disbelief. We detected electromagnetic signals from your world that are thousands of years old. Surely you mean 3,000 years. No, Elder Kren, 300. We developed radio communication about 150 years before spaceflight. We went from primitive steam engines to interstellar travel in less than 4 centuries. Our development curve is extremely steep. Silence filled the chamber. The implications were staggering. A species that advanced from industrial revolution to faster-than-light travel in 400 years? The Crythians had taken 6,000 years to achieve the same progress. How? Forex asked simply. Necessity, Dr. Chen replied. Earth is a harsh world, but it is also a small world in a dangerous region of space. We are located in what you call uninhabitable zone 7743, high radiation, unstable stellar formations, spatial anomalies. We had to develop advanced technology just to survive in our local space. Every advancement was driven by immediate need. Better radiation shielding because our sun's output fluctuates. Better engine technology because our local space is filled with gravitational distortions. Better sensors because we needed to detect hazards before they killed us. She changed the display to show human ships in various stages of development. We started with chemical rockets, then fusion drives, then antimatter propulsion, then quantum displacement engines. Each generation of technology was developed to solve a specific survival problem. And each generation was developed faster than the last because our survival depended on it. You said you have been watching us for 5 years, Sela said. Why did you not reveal yourself sooner? Dr. Chen's expression became more serious. Because we needed to understand you first. We emerged into a galaxy that we knew nothing about. We found electromagnetic signals from dozens of civilizations. We detected your ships, your stations, your communications. But we didn't know if you were peaceful or hostile, curious or xenophobic, open to newcomers or defensive of your territory. So you spied on us, Thren said, his scales shifting to orange. Accusation. We observed you, Dr. Chen corrected gently. We learned your languages. We studied your histories. We watched how you interacted with each other, and we waited until we understood you well enough to approach safely. You could have simply announced yourselves and asked for peaceful contact, Zorath said. Could we? Admiral, be honest. If 300 years ago, when your people first encountered another spacefaring species, they had simply appeared in your space announcing their presence, would your first instinct have been peaceful dialogue or military response? Zorath was silent. She was right. First contact between the Crythians and the Sethians thousands of years ago had nearly resulted in war. It was only through careful diplomacy and mutual wariness that peace had been established. We chose caution, Dr. Chen continued. We remained hidden, gathering information until we felt we understood your civilizations well enough to reveal ourselves. We thought we could make peaceful contact, explain who we were, and establish diplomatic relations. But events forced our hand. Your destroyer fired on our ship. Your fleet attempted to capture us. The Sethian strike force tried to disable and kidnap our crew. And you responded with remarkable restraint, Elder Kren noted.